What happens when corrupt cops disappear and the city begins to change? The ones who once ruled the streets now live in fear. But if they ever dare to return, they have no idea who's already waiting for them. Samuel Pop Carter had seen more than most men could bear in his 75 years. Good times, hard times, and the kind of struggles only a black man growing up in the Deep South could understand. But today, standing in front of the First National Bank of South Fulton with a thick envelope clutched tightly in his weathered hands, Pop felt something rare: relief. Inside the envelope was $4,200 in cash. Every single dollar he had managed to scrape together. The roof on his little house leaked whenever it rained. His medical bills were stacked higher than the books on his living room shelf. And his great-granddaughter's birthday was just around the corner. Pop had never been the kind of man to let life get ahead of him, but lately it felt like the whole world was running faster than he could walk. He adjusted his cap, tucked the envelope into the inside pocket of his jacket, and started his slow walk home down the cracked sidewalks of South Atlanta. That's when he heard it, the low growl of a police cruiser creeping up beside him. Pop had lived long enough to know the sound of trouble when it came. The black and white squad car eased to a stop just ahead of him, its tires crunching over the crumbling curb. Two officers stepped out. One was stocky, his belly pressing against the buttons of his uniform shirt, with a mean little smirk that said he'd enjoyed getting his way for far too long. The other was tall and wiry, his eyes darting around like a rat sniffing for scraps. Officers Randall Briggs and Tom O'Connell. Pop knew their names. Everyone in the neighborhood did. He kept walking. He wasn't in the mood for trouble. "Hey there, old-timer," Briggs called out, that smirk widening into something uglier. "Everything all right?" Pop stopped, forced himself to stay calm. "Just heading home, officer." O'Connell's sharp gaze zeroed in on the lump in Pop's jacket pocket. "What's in the envelope?" Pop's stomach clenched. He knew exactly where this was going. "Just my savings," he said, his voice steady. "Money I took out of the bank." Briggs chuckled as he stepped closer. "That right? You sure it's yours?" Pop frowned, tightening his grip inside his coat. "Yes, sir. It's mine." Briggs reached out fast, too fast, and yanked the envelope right out of Pop's hands. "No hesitation. No shame. Just pure authority." Pop's heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the envelope, now in Briggs's hands. "Give that back," Pop said, his voice firmer this time. "That's all I got." Briggs whistled as he thumbed through the cash. Then he turned to O'Connell with a grin. "Look at this," he said. "A whole lot of cash for an old man, just out for a walk, don't you think?" O'Connell shrugged. Could be unreported income. Could be something else. Pop felt his hands tremble. "That's my money," he said. "I worked for it." Briggs's expression darkened. He stepped in close and grabbed the collar of Pop's coat, just tight enough to make a point. "You resisting, old man?" Pop froze. He'd seen this before. There was only one answer. "No, sir." Briggs stared at him a second longer, then gave Pop's chest a patronizing pat before letting go. "You have a good night now," he said, sliding back into the cruiser. O'Connell pocketed the envelope as he climbed in after him. And just like that, they were gone. Pop stood there on the sidewalk, fists clenched at his sides, breath coming fast and sharp. They had taken everything. Again, he closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and reached for his phone. There was only one number he could call. His fingers trembled as he pressed it. When a line picked up, his voice was steady, despite the fire burning in his chest. "Son," he said, "I need you." Thousands of miles away, in a desert where the sun beat down like a hammer and the air stank of sweat and sand, Staff Sergeant Marcus Bear Carter sat in the back of a transport truck. His fatigues were stiff with grime, his face streaked with salt from dried sweat. His boots that had walked through war zones and hell's capes, were coated in dust. The mission was over. Another operation in another nameless place that would never make the news. But none of it mattered now, because when his phone vibrated in his pocket, Marcus knew. Some battles didn't stay overseas. He barely looked at the screen before answering. "Pop." His father's voice was calm, but Marcus could hear the weight behind it. And when he heard his father's breath hitch on the other end of the line, something in Marcus shifted. "Son," Pop said again, and this time his voice cracked just a little. They robbed me. Marcus's pulse slowed, not in fear, but in that deadly calm his teammates knew too well. Ooh, there was a pause. Then Pop spoke two words that made Marcus's world stop. The police. Marcus closed his eyes for half a second, long enough to process. Then he listened. They took my money, Pop said. Everything I had. Right outside the bank. Pulled up, snatched it, laughed like it was nothing. Marcus's jaw tightened. His father, his blood, robbed by men who wore the badge. Did they put hands on you? No, but now I can't pay my bills. And your niece's birthday is coming. Marcus stared at the dirt under his boots. His breathing slow, measured. His mind already calculating. His teammates, hardened soldiers who'd seen him walk into chaos without blinking, noticed the change in his posture. When Marcus Carter finally spoke, his voice was ice. I'm coming. The call ended. No hesitation. No second thoughts. This was a mission now, and they had no idea what was coming. Atlanta. The plane touched down at Hartsfield-Jackson. Marcus wasn't thinking about reunions or homecomings. He wasn't thinking about catching up with old friends. He had one thought. Find them. He moved through the airport like a man on a mission. Every step deliberate. Every breath controlled. The city buzzed around him. Car horns, people on their phones, laughter. But he was already hunting. At the South Atlanta Police Precinct, the place stank of stale coffee and power plays. Marcus didn't bother with polite introductions. Where's Briggs? His voice was low and cold, cutting through the noise like a blade. The desk sergeant barely looked up. And who are you? Marcus Carter, son of Samuel Carter. And I'm looking for the thief who robbed him. That got attention. The officers around him stopped talking. Some stood up. Others exchanged glances. Marcus stood still. He could feel the air change. Big entrance for a nobody, someone drawled behind him. Marcus didn't turn right away. He felt the presence before he saw it. Briggs. The man strolled out of side office, casual, smug, his badge gleaming. But when Marcus turned to face him, Briggs's smirk twitched. Marcus didn't blink. You took my father's money. Briggs chuckled. I don't know what you're talking about. Marcus stepped closer, his voice like cold steel. Give it back. Briggs folded his arms. Or what? Marcus's expression didn't change. Where you find out why I was the most dangerous man in the 5th Special Forces Group. For the first time, Briggs's smile faded. And then the storm came.